Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Graying Jedi podcast. I am UrzaMaster. Joining me as always, Jedi Master Psyllium Maas and Lord Uther. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Jedi Council chambers. We are at the second to last Mandalorian episode of Season 3, and we're talking the spies today. Jedi Master Psyllium Maas, there's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to let you take it away today.
Thank you, Jedi Master, UrzaMaster, Jedi Master Lord Uther, and our loyal Graying Jedi fans. Can you believe we've done 53 of these for you? Well, we're just getting started, friends. We're now on the downslope towards 100 episodes of the Graying Jedi. If you haven't caught them before, be sure to catch them in the archives. Be sure to like, comment, and recommend. This is indeed the penultimate episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and using a little bit of what we know now, it is likely the second to last episode of The Mandalorian as it is presently constructed. We will certainly be seeing some of these characters again in future big screen adaptations, as well as perhaps popping up in other streaming shows that are headlined by other characters. But as far as The Mandalorian, it appears that it has come to a close with the third season, and then bigger and better and bolder things await our intrepid heroes and villains. So it's a big one. And as befitting that, we have this season's showrunner, Rick Famuyiwa, as our director, and we have Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni behind the typewriters, giving us Chapter 23, The Spies, which first aired on April 12th, 2023. We also had an all-star cast of supporting characters. Most, if not all of them, we have seen before. Katie M. O'Brien as the devious Elia Kane. Giancarlo Esposito finally returns in the flesh as Moff Gideon. A welcome return. Carl Weathers, the late great Carl Weathers as Grief Karga. Emily Swallow as the Armorer. Taika Waititi returning to voice IG-11 or IG-12, depending on which numerical system you're running with. And then we had a couple of Imperial cameos. We may see those characters in the future, or we may not. They certainly did enough to establish themselves. Xander Berkeley, a little older Xander Berkeley. You would recognize him as Todd, the do-nothing stepfather of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. He was also a military attorney in A Few Good Men, and he also guested for a couple of seasons on Kiefer Sutherland's 24. So he's a character guy. He's been around for years. He's one of those faces you say, oh yeah, I remember him. He played Captain Pellaeon, and fans of Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogies will know Captain Pellaeon as one of Grand Admiral Thrawn's right-hand men. And so that relationship is being revitalized now. It was pushed out of canon when Disney acquired Star Wars back in 2012. But they have reintroduced those elements, so Captain Pellaeon. And we also had Brian Gleason playing Brendol Hux. And why is that interesting? Because he's playing the father of Armitage Hux, who is played by Domhnall Gleeson in the sequel trilogies, and that is Kylo Ren's aide-de-camp, Imperial fascist co-founder. You can even see Armitage Hux in the Star Wars Rise of Resistance ride at your favorite Disney park. He appears in every iteration of the ride that you take. But what's fascinating is Brian Gleason is actually the younger brother of Domhnall Gleeson, and yet Brian Gleason is playing Domhnall Gleeson's father. And we've actually had the character of Brendol Hux in the comic books and some of the tie-in novels for Star Wars. This is his first on-camera appearance, if you will. So for the real deep cut Star Wars fans like yours truly, it was fun to see him appear via hologram as the Imperial remnant were plotting in the beginning of the episode, and it gets the episode off, for me with an ominous bang. The reintroduction of Moff Gideon, the idea that the Imperials, despite being, we've seen them being quote unquote rehabilitated or scattered across the galaxy, they seem to be reforming, and so we can see where the seeds for the First Order are going to get placed. It's a rainy, lower level type of Coruscant that we're experiencing. We get a little bit more of the deviousness of Elia Kane. Not that we needed any more evidence that she's very much not rehabilitated, but she clearly has thrown in with the bad guys here. We get a probe droid, very ominous probe droid appearance there. So that was, and we get the first, you have to remember, this aired before the Ahsoka Season 1, so we're getting the further confirmation that Grand Admiral Thrawn's return is imminent. It has not yet transpired, but as soon as he does, the galaxy will quiver beneath his boot, according to Captain Pellaeon and the followers. And you get Giancarlo Esposito, again, this is now his third season as Moff Gideon, and he has embraced the role with relish. He has never overplayed it. He has never descended into camp or overacting. He's big, he's operatic, he's grand, maybe not quite a grand Moff, but Giancarlo he perfectly nails the tone that you would need for a Star Wars villain. And it's a delight. Every time he's on screen, you're like, he's going to be a formidable foe. And by this episode's end, he turns out to be. Gentlemen, Grogu Speaks is really the headline I should have led with. I've been burying the lead here, albeit he sounds like Taika Waititi in this. But it's a nice workaround because, as you know, eventually and inevitably, the pressure will be on to have Grogu articulate and form words, and what's he going to sound like? Is he going to sound like his kinsman Yoda and Yaddle? Is he going to have a completely different inflection? And I think we're all in the back of our heads kind of wondering eventually, when's he going to stop with the baby noises and start to actually communicate with Din Djarin and the rest of the characters. So this was a nice workaround that was actually, to me, I still break out smiling / laughing how they were able to get him to express himself verbally while not actually having him speak. Again, I don't know if you're going to be able to sustain that for multiple features or so forth, but it certainly worked here. And the idea of him basically, using the IG bounty hunting droid as his own personal conveyance, I thought, again, terrific. Whoever came up with that in the writer's room, Filoni, Favreau, or one of the interns, that was really solid. I don't know why, but when I first saw the desert ship coming across the sands of Mandalore, I thought of Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits. Maybe it was just a visual cue or something. And this idea of this kind of truly a pirate crew, basically the last survivors who have stayed planetside on Mandalore. And their leader is Charles Parnell. And again, he's like the Xander Berkeley now of contemporary cinema because you've seen him in several things, whether you remembered him or not. Most recently, Top Gun Maverick. He was one of the two military officers who frowned at Maverick every time he broke the rules with John Hamm. But Charles Parnell was more of the, come on, cut the guy some slack. He's one of our best pilots. But gentlemen, we're building to the two-part finale. This is part one. The stakes couldn't be higher. We're paying off all of the plot lines that we've established through this season: Bo-Katan, the Darksaber, retaking Mandalore, coming, all of these things are now, this is the fruit that we must pluck from the branches. And so how did it taste, gentlemen, when you were mixing it up, Beskar to Beskar with the spies?
Oh, I guess UrzaMaster wants me to go. I mean, it's perfect, right? Here I was talking about season 3, kind of being a little bit of a downfall for me in a sense, but it was that whole Jack Black episode that just threw the whole season off. Because going back and watching these again, especially these last 2 episodes, makes me even more excited for the movie. And I know we'll talk about the last episode next week, but I wound up watching that yesterday as I had a little bit of time. But this episode, you're cheering for those Mandalorians to obviously take back, their planet. It's nice to see. It's nice that all the Mandalorians are getting along as well. And I remember when this episode came out, there were some rumors that the armorer might be a spy or might be kind of possibly going against the Mandalorians. Which I was happy to see was not going to be the case, because that could have been an easy way out in a sense. But, to me, there's 2 people that kind of steal this episode. Well, Grogu having the IG armor is great. But to me, it is Moff Gideon and Pas Viszla. Like, they completely, in my opinion, steal the show here. I like just, it's the typical, everyone get out of here. I'm going to hold them off with Pas Viszla. And it's just, his gun overheats. That was fantastic. Then we're having some, one-on-one combat there as well. It was just very cool to see.
And that character, I'm glad you bring him up, because I think one of you has a boxed figure of Pas Viszla somewhere.
Yeah, me. I bought it because of this episode.
That character starts off as just a pure one-note Cobra Kai antagonist to Din Djarin. He's not of our culvert. He does not follow the way, kind of a thing. And then in season 2, when Din Djarin has removed his helmet and so forth, it's, well, he's an apostate and a traitor, and it's a very easy character, and we never see his face. We just hear Jon Favreau doing the voiceover as he chose to do. It's a very easy character to just sort of have on the shelf just when you need a moment or two. But rescuing his son, committing the Mandalorians to the cause, he's the one who says, I will stand and fight with Din Djarin and Bo-Katan. By the end of his run, I'll be darned if you don't think that's a great character. Again, he didn't have a lot of real estate. They never did just a solo Pas Viszla. Let's do a flashback. How did he become Pas Viszla? But what little the little breadcrumbs they gave us, just fully embodied, and the payoff is there, as if he was, the third lead, if you will. So yes, that was really cool how they were able to
and as we always talk about, that's great writing, that you don't have him. His screen time is maximized every time.
Yes. And
it gets to the point that when he dies, spoiler alert, you're like heartbroken, because he has become so pivotal. I almost see him as like the big brother of the Mandalorians in a sense. He'll throw his weight around. He's the bodyguard. He'll take care of everybody, which he obviously he does at the end there. And then to see are they called the Praetorian Guard? Is that the guys in the red?
Guard. Oh yeah, badasses.
Yeah, they wind up showing up. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. So yeah, man, great episode. Still kind of threw me off a little bit that how quickly they got a base built there on Mandalore. Maybe I was reading into it a little too much, trying to figure out how Moff Gideon, winds up making that happen. But just wonderful stuff there.
Yeah, I have to say I was not expecting the first time I watched this Pas Viszla to be sacrificed. But it makes perfect sense with the character. I think a lot of people complained about that as being too cliche. which I think people sometimes forget you're watching sci-fi and that cliches are a normal part of literature. And it's perfect because everything he does is in direct response to Din Djarin putting his life on the line to save his son. And like, so this makes perfect canonical sense. So if you're one of those haters who says it's too cliche and that this episode is filled with cliches, shut the hell up. I'm sorry. I don't subscribe to the fact that you can dislike something because it leans into a cliche. Cliches are used because they're potent. This was a potent moment. It was great storytelling. Sometimes storytelling has cliches. I'm sorry. If you aren't a student of literature, you're probably just a pretentious asshole. So I feel very strongly that this delivered on a great story arc of a developing character. And it left me pretty heartbroken because I was hoping to see him continue, but the truth is, as with Bo-Katan Kryze, this really isn't the story of those particular individuals. This is Din Djarin's story. And I think that's only going to continue. As much as I'd love to see Bo-Katan, be the Queen of Mandalore and, all these other bit players in the Din Djarin Grogu story become people, they can do that off screen. But Din Djarin and Grogu, those are really the central characters here, and that's what it's going to be going forward. I thought this nailed on a great two-parter cliffhanger. I think it definitely left us with some hope for the future, but also some despair, which, again, great writing for a two-part episode, especially a finale. It did not leave much chaff. A lot of loose ends are tied up. And so, you're moving towards, hopefully, a really strong conclusion, which leads us right into the movie. And definitely into the Ahsoka series, which we've already covered here on the Graying Jedi podcast. And I love seeing those connections now on this walkthrough of Mandalorian Season 3 because it really did usher in Ahsoka in a big way. And I love that sort of the tendrils of Ahsoka were able to fall out in a manner that felt organic, but at the same time also felt like it was part of a bigger construct. And that's something that I think Star Wars, for a long time, kind of lacked. We'll be talking about Revenge of the Sith soon, and the one big gripe I have about that movie is that I felt like they didn't do a great job of tying everything together. And also laying foundations for the future. I know it was supposed to be the conclusion of that arc, so you don't want to leave a lot of open ends, but I think the best shows always leave a little something open so that your fandom has something to latch on to, that there's a promise for some kind of future for even some of the characters. Even if, Princess Leia dies in the end, you want something to be out there to believe, there could be something more to this. There could be more storylines, if nothing else, to drive your sales, right? And I know people gripe about the fact that, this isn't a complete story. It's never supposed to be. You're always supposed to think, what if? Hence the whole Marvel universe. What if? I think that's what makes these shows exciting. Star Wars in particular, I think, could learn a lot from Star Trek and how even the wildest loose end can become an amazing storyline. Look at the Packlids in Lower Decks. Come on. I mean, seriously. If you haven't watched Lower Decks, head on over to our other podcast, The Warp Core. Check that out. Because there are so many things you can pull out of obscurity and make into something amazing. Star Wars is doing it right here with Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's not mentioned in the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy or the sequel trilogy. He's, a passing afterthought. This is a character that really is a huge behind-the-scenes player, except, of course, in the books. And now they're resurrecting this story and making multiple shows out of this. So, Star Wars, continue what you're doing. Don't listen to the haters. And I'm I'm so excited for the Mandalorian and Grogu. I really, 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 really look forward to it.
And we only have to wait till 2026. Thank you, ILM, and a long post-production schedule. Gentlemen, some really quick hits. We get another glimpse of Project Necromancer, which again, as we all know now, was Sheev Palpatine's attempt to live beyond the grave. So we're, once again, as Lord Uther has promised, they are making sure that they lay some sort of foundation that we can get to that moment that you all loved in The Rise of Skywalker, when, in fact, the clone of Palpatine's past does arrive. I love the way that Famuyiwa conveyed it without dialogue, the challenge of the two tribes of the Mandalor coming together when they arrive on Navarro with their big imposing fleet, and the ones who are on the fleet, the axe wolves and so forth, they remove their helmets as sort of a challenge to the children of the way. And I mean, they hold the beat long enough that there's real tension for a minute. Like, hey, are they just going to start swinging vibro knives and axes at each other? But I thought that was great. And then the armor, of course, diffuses the tension with the promise of a feast, as so much science fiction does. I love Din Djarin's throwaway line with Grogu eagerly using his newfound conveyance. This isn't working for me. Pedro Pascal delivers that line with just the right amount of exasperation. Like, this isn't working for me. I thought that was terrific. We had another monster of the week, but we didn't spend, unlike previous episodes where we were battling them and shooting rocket packs and so forth. This one gets the best of the ship and the Mandos pretty quickly, and just basically strands them. So that was nice that we didn't go back to another 5-minute, let's try and destroy it from the inside kind of a moment there. And I don't know, the Mandalorians exploring the caverns before they're set upon by Gideon's troops. I thought of Cylons. I thought of Cylons moving through the chambers, particularly the 1978 Battlestar Galactica Cylons. Maybe not the more nuanced ones that we had in 2003 and 2004. But I wrote down Cylons in the dark? ? So a nice little nod there, even if I'm the only one who picked up on it. So what do you say, gents?
I'll start this week. My Kyber crystal is a brilliant, brilliant green. I wish I had a better visual aid, but let's just say CDR green hue, even though there's some rainbow to it. I love this episode. I feel like I've been waiting all season for this episode, and of course, it's kind of a stupid thing to say, because yes, of course you have. If there was one thing that redeemed this season from that terrible Jack Black episode, which really, if you cut Jack Black and Lizzo completely out of that episode, it's a good episode. This blew me away. I remember watching it the first time, and I immediately had to go to the next episode. I could not wait. And I'm glad that I didn't watch it as it came out, because it would have addled me to have to wait for a week to see the next episode. So, totally green here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go green, which I have in the background. I'm glowing over this episode.
Oh, wow.
And it's only gonna get better for the next one, but it has everything you want, setting up that season-ending finale. Just getting you ready to see what happens next. So green for me.
And I was strolling through Tomorrowland at Disneyland recently in the Star Trader gift shop, because as you know, gentlemen, when you get off a ride, you have to exit through the gift shop. And I came across a lovable, huggable Grogu. I don't know, I'm getting washed out by my light here. But he is hugging Babu Frick. So this not only is a green Grogu, he is annoying Babu Frick, who helped rebuild IG-11 for him. Bad baby, bad baby. So it's a little squishable that you put on your mantle. And that's where that is. It also ties in nicely to the episode because I believe Babu shows up briefly and says, no baby, go, bad baby. So yes, onwards to the season/series finale in our next installment.
Yes, and that will be our 54th Graying Jedi episode. Again, as we are on the backslide to 100 at the century mark, we are looking forward to that. And until we see you all again in that galaxy far, far away, may the Force be with you.